Male hypergamy is a thing. It exists. It's an exercise in gaining status off the backs of your fellow man. Now, when women exercise their hypergamy, they gain. When we exercise ours, we lose because it's hostile to our fellow man. Now, a couple of weeks ago, here is an article written on the Pro Male Collective, which I'll put in the description box so you guys can read and share, right? The laws of male status seeking and group dynamics, right? Now, he says not all social groups are about status seeking. Many groups are just spaces for people to have nothing more than casual social interaction. Often these groups are based around a singular hobby. Yes, and these are the most positive. Let me show you something. Here's the hobby, heavy metal music. Here's a convention, and the guys love it. They get along. Why metalheads are happier people? They should be saying happier guys. See, it's a vast majority men. And we'll play a little bit of this.
Vacuum that's really huge people, everyone is friendly, everything is awesome, and feels like a family of 75,000 people.
See? And again, notice there's very few women in the background. I think there's one there. This is majority of men. They do want their girls there, but it's not necessary. There aren't any fights breaking out here in these conventions. You know why? Because these guys love the music so much, they want to talk to other guys about it.
That's awesome.
Again, notice there are a bunch of young guys, no women there. Look how happy these guys are. Guys, I want you to look at this. There's no women there, and these guys are all smiles. Why? Because they're not there for the love of females. They're there for the love of the music, which goes beyond, lizard brain mating practices.
Bakken is the promised land.
It's so friendly. Everyone's always really welcoming, and it's different from festivals in the UK. Festivals in the UK can be a bit erratic and a bit, it's not very nice, really. And here,
it's ironic that heavy metal music, is given such a bum rap, but it's one of the best conventions to be involved with.
It's always really warm.
There you go. These guys might all be friends, but they're just as likely to be complete strangers. And look how happy they are to be here amongst one another. And notice I also saw huge age group. Now, I remember there was a young guy, you could tell he was like 15 or 16, passionately talking with surrounded by older men, sharing their passion for heavy metal music. I wish I could have found that clip, right? So men of all ages and races getting together for heavy metal, right? Now that's the positive side, right? But a lot of the time, these groups will eventually change purpose and become about attaining status for many of those who join. It's good to note that these laws are generalizations. They don't always apply to all groups. But a large number of these laws will always apply to any male group. And now here are the laws. Now, number one, many men join groups to personally benefit from them, right? This can be just as simple as wanting to socialize, but most of the time, men join groups to network and gain status. Yes, there are exclusive clubs, right? Where only the wealthy, important men gain, and they make deals with one another and keep themselves, their face in the public eye, right? Nobody's allowed. Two, many groups will only allow men if they are perceived to be of any value to the group. Yeah, you're not there for yourself. And again, that's why heavy metal looks so great to me. Because these guys, they don't need, the only thing they need to to bring to the table is their love of the music, right? Many men will seek to put the minimal effort in to remain within the group they are a part of. Now, I can be guilty of that too, right? You want to be a part of the group, but you don't want to necessarily work. Again, these guys don't have to do any work, right? I just want to point that out. Quite often, many men will just join a group and do nothing to contribute to it. Now, that is important in our Discord. Men's rights Discords have to be active. And I have seen guys join the Discord and their icon will be lit up, but they never interact or do anything, right? So for an MRA group, it's very important that guys contribute, right? 4, men generally only tend to carry on associating with groups if they perceive to be any benefit from doing so. Exactly. You know, it's like I'm here to be the housewife leech to my own group of guys, right? Any past benefit from the group they are part of will not guarantee future loyalty. Any of you guys who have heard of Briffault law, Briffault's law, that'll look familiar. That'll sound familiar because it is. It's like men don't have any loyalty to one another. As soon as they get what they want, they're gone. You see it in MRA spaces. Guys join up because they have a personal problem, like they're paying child support or alimony, right? And they want their personal problem taken care of. And as soon as they do, if they do, they abandon the group and say, I don't need it anymore. I don't care if other men are in trouble. To hell with them, right? No loyalty. Not all men are users, but a lot of them are. And many groups are maintained off the backs of a minority of pro-social, unselfish people. 100% true. I can tell you from experience. 5, low-status male groups, males in a group are at the highest risk of getting discarded if they are perceived to be of low utility to the group or the person in charge of the group. This is true. All right, this is it. We don't want nobodies around. Matter of fact, I remember the largest MRA, Reddit, once had a rule: you can't, we won't share any of your stuff unless you're 30,000 or more strong membership. In other words, you've got to be a somebody before we care about your problems as a man. That's antithetical to men's rights, which shows you the biggest MRA site is a waste of men's space, right? 6, males who violate the group consensus are more likely to be cast out than females who do so. Many groups value group consensus over ethics and truth. Now, I'm a bit guilty of that in so much as I like to get along and have people come in and be comfortable. And it's very tempting to forget your principles. Sometimes you have to be the bad guy, right? And of course, women can buck the system because men want them there. That's the whole point of gaining status anyway for a man, to get the girl. 7, groups are more likely to accede to the demand of women than men. Quite often it can be it can take just one sole female demanding stuff for a group to roll over and change their rules. This is 100% true. Let me see if I can find it here. Here it is. This is an old video of mine. Hot springs tourism in Japan damaged by a single feminist. Everything was going on all right in these hot springs, and it's been so long I can't remember what the details of the video, but I know that a single woman complained, and these hot springs rolled over and changed the rules just for her. This is the social power women have. Men can only dream of this. This woman who did this was a nobody. She wasn't important in any way. She was just female. Okay? Let's see. The lowest status male members of the group are often given the hardest and most unrewarding work. Luckily, we don't do it in our group to guys who join up. We don't play those rules. in the PMC. However, I've seen it, and let's see, there was this documentary concerning Hell's Angels, where the new members, they had to take drugs, not to feel good, but to stay awake. Because they were basically initiates that were, abused. Until they proved themselves to the group, they had to give completely always be on guard and ready to kiss their asses. They had to be there whenever they said to be there, and they had to wait however long. And so often they were losing hours of sleep. That's a great group to belong to, right? Now, 9, higher status social circles tend to attract more females. Thus will attract higher status men. Exactly. It's a feedback loop, right? Women are all about status, therefore men are all about status because men are all about women. Lower status group attract less females and tend to attract desperate low status men. Hey, look, I'll admit it, the PMC is like that. The MRA is like that. Men only join up pro-male groups when they're absolutely have nothing to lose. Matter of fact, I joined up after I watched a woman talk about men's issues. I basically had to have a woman give me permission to talk about my own issues. So I'm guilty of that, right? 10, as group gains status, it is more likely to turn on the low status male members and create threat narratives against them. That's true. Where is it here? Where is it here? Yes, this is the YouTuber Monoinsomnia. Anime conventions have changed for the worst. Yeah, he used to like anime conventions because when they were low status, it just attracted low status men who were glad to trade, right? To talk about their hobby. And then once it raised in status, women joined up and the women made it male hostile. They started changing the rules. Like no harassment, no looking at your betters. That's women, right? Women would show up and they wouldn't even be about the anime. They'd be cosplayers. They'd be playing dress up for male attention, all the while having complete disgust at the male attendees. Now, here's the thing. This is why I love the heavy metalers. They didn't pull that horse shit, right? They didn't pull that horse shit. These low status nerds sold their fellow man out to have females around. The heavy metal guys, they're not even thinking about that. They're there for the music. The women aren't even on their minds. So there's the light and dark side of that. Okay. These often come in the form of harassment policies, there you go, and white knight enforcing social norms that the women who join demand. Exactly. This is the process of female colonization of male spaces. Exactly. Exactly. Let's see. I just want to double check. Yeah. Here's another one from Monoinsomnia. I left another toxic Discord server. Why was it toxic? Because it was about gaining status. It was about being important. Remember, the metalheads have it right. They are about the love of the music. They are not about attracting female audience or female companionship. That doesn't even enter these guys' minds. That's why this is what men want for themselves. Okay? Low status men low status men who join low status groups tend to often bail on them if they are able to gain status. Perfect example, let's see. This is a video of mine on the MGTOW human, if that's how you say it. Human bailed on his group. He made all these MGTOW videos, and then once he got himself a girlfriend, he shat on his fellow MGTOW. Because this guy is a lowlife. He was only there because he was desperate deselected man. And he abandoned MGTOW as soon as he could, right? Many low-status groups are either cults or marketing scams. So people running the group can con and exploit desperate low-status men. Exactly. Here's a perfect example. This scumbag right here. He was a con artist, right? Now, 13, niche hobbies that are seen as low status can become higher status if they become trendy. See what happened to the geek culture in general. Those spaces are now mainstream and colonized by females. Those spaces are prominent enough to attract high status men and females seeking a profit. Exactly. Many groups have lieutenant positions, often given to those who pander to the leader. By pandering, they become high value to the leader. A good example of this is big YouTube channel Discord servers. The lieutenant moderator admin positions are often given to men who donate via Patreon. Yeah, peg pigs. They get to be lieutenants, right? The leaders of big groups can be seen as high value people by both men and women. Maybe low status men are willing to pander to higher status men as long as they perceive they are gaining status from it. Of course, this perception can be false. Having a lieutenant position in a group rarely has any real world value, which is true. However, these lieutenants do get the honor of, abusing males underneath them, right? 15, many volunteer community spaces have a high number of women and are often run by women, simply because men in relationships work more than women in relationships. And so these spaces are used by middle-aged women to socialize and network. That's right. These women socialize and network with one another because they don't want to bother with the peasants. The man works, so the woman gets to hang around with the people she actually wants to be with. 16, women tend to value socializing with their own sex more than men value socializing with their own sex. Thus, many groups tend to be female-centric, of course. Right. And 17, women who take over community spaces will gatekeep them and keep men out. Again, in the case of Monoinsomniac here, right? When it came to the cons, all of a sudden he wasn't welcome anymore, right? They make rules that are hostile to low status men, which the women don't like. Next thing you know, the guys are either being abused continuously or they're booted out if they don't just leave on their own. So I just want to end off saying, yes, there's male hypergamy, and guys have to become aware of it and then discard this bad behavior, because this is what joy is for men. They're not about attracting females, so they're not about gaining status. They're about the love of their hobby, and look what you gain from it. You gain a fantastic experience with your fellow man. I don't even particularly like heavy metal. I don't hate it, but it's low on the totem pole for me. But nevertheless, look at the positive effect it has for men. So therefore, I support heavy metal music 100%. Because I support men being solid, finding solidarity with one another and finding purpose beyond chasing women. Now look at these guys. This is what I want for my fellow man. So ditch male hypergamy.